Big question here on Wednesday's morning kick around. Jason, you spent some time in wine country and yesterday in the wondrous game of Champions League football, 37-year-old Francesco Acerbi scoring that dramatic injury time equalizer. Domestically, who are the best veteran players that are aging like fine wine?
Oh, that's a good question. And when we were like debating this before the show, I was saying that there aren't nearly as many old goalkeepers in MLS as we used to have, which is fine. You need to, you need to refresh the ranks every now and then. But I think there was a time when, guys like Matt Reese and Pat Onstad, and I'm probably missing 5 or 6 other guys.
Robles.
Luis Robles, they were pushing it to 38, 39, 40, 41, even maybe in a couple of cases. I think we've got one 40-year-old goalkeeper in Major League Soccer, and that's Brad Guzan in Atlanta. Has he aged like fine wine, Robert?
Well, in making this list, we might have discovered that this might have been the year that the wine turned sour in Major League Soccer. But let's start with those aging gracefully. I'll start. Probably the easiest answer is Leo Messi. I don't know how many players in world football history have, continued to play at the level he has, knocking on the door of 40. Suarez last year was incredible, helped them to that points record, maybe showing signs that it's aging this year. And then also from my personal catalog that came to mind right away, Darlington Nagbe, still like fine wine at an advanced age.
Yeah, Darlington Nagbe. How old? Do you know off the top of your head how old Darlington Nagbe is? I mean, I think he fits this bill. I'm not going to say he doesn't, but
he's definitely got a 3 at the beginning of his number.
34, which for his position, right? Unless you're playing in Serie A, 34 is kind of where things start to like maybe
the knees start
slow down
aching
a bit. Yeah, but he has not dropped off. And he is one of those players that's hard to appreciate unless you just keep an eye on him for 90 minutes. He's not flashy, at least not anymore. He scored some bangers in his youth when he was with the Timbers, but that's not what he does, right? Well, what he does is he's incredible in tight spaces. He advances the ball. He is a player that makes a midfield hum, and I love that. I love that you mentioned that. Now, he's 34, and a slightly older player who I think is absolutely an MLS legend and deserves to be recognized as such. But maybe, as you said, maybe the sourness has kicked in a bit because he's not a starter anymore. But who would be at 39? Diego Chara of the Portland Timbers, former teammate of Darlington Nagbe, because he has been up until this point. I'm sure that you could pick apart the numbers and say Diego Chara has taken a step back over the years, Rob. But I don't think there was any real argument that he wasn't one of the best defensive midfielders in Major League Soccer for a solid decade plus. I mean, we're talking about going back years and years and years since he arrived in this league. 2011 was his first season with the Timbers. He's played more than 400 games with the Timbers. I think he deserves to be on this list. I think he does.
Some of the oldest players in Major League Soccer, according to Transfermarkt, is Anibal Godoy. Maxime Chanot, and I believe the oldest player in Major League Soccer is one Bradley Guzan at a ripe 40 years old. Evan Bush, also in the league, playing backup largely for Columbus Crew.
Yeah.
Stefan Fry, is he aging like fine wine?
I would put Stefan Fry there. Stefan Fry is still up there in the elite group of MLS goalkeepers. Andre Blake, 34. Mike Thomas is saying that. But yeah, again, for a goalkeeper, still relatively young. Been great for a decade plus in Philadelphia. I remember when they drafted him, how big of a deal that was. Outside of goalkeepers, man, it's really tough. It kind of this is getting to be a younger and younger lead. Outside of that Inter Miami team, which you've already talked about. We haven't really seen. Let's see who else comes to mind. Kai Kamara would be on this list, I think. Last year, I mean, he didn't play a ton, but he would have been on this list last year. but he doesn't have a contract this year, which says something. And Kai kept going and going and going, and kept creeping up the goal scoring charts. And it would have taken a huge bit of work to get him past Wondolowski for the number one spot overall. But the fact that he's gone this far, I think, says a lot about him. I don't know. Again, maybe the aging has stopped now, and it's that wine is done. If you age it anymore, then it's probably over. Does Maxi Morales deserve to be on this list, or do you think that he's slowed down too much?
I don't know. I am not a big viewer of Cincinnati FC, so I really can't.
NYCFC, Maxi Morales, Argentinian midfielder who was at NYCFC and then left, went back down to Argentina, and then came back. So that maybe we can let's see if there's anybody else in the chat that gets a mention. I see Andre Blake. Nate asking if Nagami makes this list, if he plays on the national team with all the travel. I mean, that's
a good point.
It's worth mentioning.
Mike Thomas says Maxi's time has passed.
Maxi's time, yeah, it probably has, right? That's why I mentioned him. Shout out to our member Mike Thomas. That is a player who I think his former glory with NYCFC, that creates this, I don't know, this aura around him, but it doesn't look like he's at that level. And he's 38. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's a surprise that Maxi Morales has slowed down at 38 years old. Again, man, I feel like even 4 or 5 years ago, MLS had a lot. I mean, you had, you just had some players retire in the last couple of years. Dak McCarty just retired.
He was one of my favorite veterans. I mean, that like kind of old dad midfielder that populated many rosters of Major League Soccer have gone away. And like you said, that the league has gotten much younger because I think Ian in the chat, joked that Kevin Sullivan is aging very well, and he's the youngest player in the league, which is a fun note. But a lot of those players like the Jeff Lorenewitzes of the world, and
that's exactly what I was going to mention. Yeah, Lorenowitz
not necessarily in there, but I wanted to note, like, I do think that maybe this year really is where these age players, the wine is turning sour. Busquets isn't what it used to be. Suarez isn't what it used to be. Olivier Giroud.
Oh man, yeah. You know what? Here's something. Okay, again, it's going to sound very pretentious. Okay, I just want to acknowledge that this is going to sound pretentious.
Go off, pretentious man.
I went to wine country. The last winery that we visited was this place called Literai. It's closer to the coast, and actually not in Napa. You have to drive a bit. And they do some weird, like, biodynamic farming. Look this up. It's not really science as much as it's like a philosophy. It's very interesting. I just because it was fascinating. At one point, our guide told us that one thing they do is they take a bull's horn and they put manure inside the bull's horn, and then they bury the bull's horn at a certain phase of the moon. And then later on in the season, during a different phase of the moon or the right phase of the moon, they dig it up and sprinkle it on the crops, and it helps the crops grow. This is what we were told. Anyway, at this place, and again, this is going to sound extremely pretentious, we said we would like to buy a couple of bottles of your wine. And the gentleman who was giving us the tour said, yeah, okay, great. Those will ship in November. And we went, oh, okay. Why? And because the temperature for shipping the wine is not correct right now, and they need to wait till later in the. It's all about temperature control.
It cools down.
And something like that. It's all about temperature control. You cannot ship the wine when it's too warm. It'll spoil the wine. Maybe that's what happened to Olivier Giroud. He came to the hot place, and now he can't score goals anymore. It's too hot. The temperature has spoiled Giroud. Is that a good? I mean, is it possible that's what's happening there?
Let me run through the oldest active. I'll just move on. Yeah, he's just sweating out in California. He can't handle it. It does get warm in France, but in Europe, but not quite Southern California heat by any chance.
All right. I mean, I just wanted to tell the story about the winery. That's all.
Oldest outfield players. Diego Chara, wine fine or soured?
Oh man, souring. Can I say it's in process? Is that what yeah?
Fair play. I'm skipping past a whole bunch of goalkeepers. Olivier Giroud, we touched on him. Suarez, Morales,
Suarez. The jury's still out on Suarez. I think he could come back around, but right now it's not going great.
Bedoya, is he playing still?
I will defer to our man Mike Thomas again, who is a Philadelphia Union fan.
Ooh.
Also, that gentleman, also known as Phil and Miketon. So that's another joke. Shout out to him. Bedoya's time done maybe 2 years ago. Up until 2 years ago, Alonso Bedoya was doing the job. Doing the job. I mean, that the amount of ground he could cover and his involvement in the game kept him in that elite group, and it was fine. Now it's not so much.
Trailing him is obviously Messi. We all know how he's doing. Tim Ream, the next oldest at 37 and a half.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of people will say that the move to MLS represents the end of that fine aging process for Tim Ream. I think that's probably a little unfair.
Tim Ream has always been up and down in my books. Like, he's had some of the, when he was with Fulham, he had some incredible seasons and some seasons he doesn't want to watch back again, I'm sure. So he's always up and down. So
that is fair. He did get better with age. So he did age well while at Fulham. And then obviously at 37, it was okay. Well, they're not going to use me, and maybe my legs aren't going to do enough for me. 840 minutes played in Major League Soccer this season. He actually did get 15 minutes in that Open Cup game last night against North Carolina FC. He's still doing it. Right? He's still out there on a regular basis starting for Charlotte. I don't know that we can say Tim Ream has gone bad.
Perhaps his shipping container wasn't the right temperature when he came over from Fulham.
Maybe that's what happened.
And just a couple more of the elder statesmen of outfield players in Major League Soccer. Not having a great season. He got an own goal over the weekend, but how is Yoshida at LA Galaxy?
Yeah. I think that I've watched a little bit of him this season. I think he's part of the problem in LA. And yeah, I don't think that that's going well. I think perhaps we passed the expiration date, although that's not how wine works.
And I don't want to question the validity of transfer mark, but is Omar Gonzalez on the Chicago Fire?
Still an active player. Yes. Last year with FC Dallas. This year he has moved on. He is now just kind of this bouncing around the league, squeezing more seasons out of his body. So last year he played 15 times for Dallas. He's made a couple of appearances so far, I think. Maybe I don't have the up-to-date numbers, but a couple of appearances at least for Chicago this season. And yeah, he's not a starter. He's 36. He's not going to get, he's not out there like a Cherby. He's certainly not going to pop up in front of goal and score like that in a Champions League semifinal second leg. So yeah.
Yeah. How about a Cherby dropping an F-bomb on live television and then the Athletic reprinting it unedited?
Was it a Cherby that said it? Or was it Fratesi that said it? Did we talk about this?
We already talked about you, Fratesi. You're right. I think it was Fratesi. That was surprising. That, I mean, obviously live television happens, but it's wild that the Athletic would, write out his quote with the F word laden in there.
Don't be so Puritan. Don't be so puritanical, Robert.
I'm not scolding them. I'm not scolding them. I'm just surprised that they did it. That's all. I'm surprised.
Yeah. All right.
In a world that is leaning Puritan to a degree, but we will move on from that. Glad to be back in the seat doing morning kick around with you, Jason. MK Ultras, thanks for returning, and Ian, I'm glad you came back. I know you're asking where we're at. Glad to be part of your morning routine. If you're watching and you haven't hit subscribe yet, do so now, and you can even take it a step farther and become a member. You'll have priority commenting, early access to videos, access to the Discord, and many more. So hit that membership button after you subscribe.
Do that. Get into the Discord, and maybe we can put together our conclave to elect our soccer pope, because we need a soccer pope, don't we?
Yeah, we're gonna need to debate it for weeks on end, probably too.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while, and I don't think it's gonna be white smoke. It's gonna have to be some other colored smoke coming out of the supporters' end. MK Ultras throwing up the smoke when we elect our soccer pope.
Purple smoke, always the best kind of smoke to fill the air. Yeah, my team, first week of OCFC training this week. It's getting real. Kicking off USL 2 in a couple weeks, and moving along with morning kick around action. If you want to follow along on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, you can also write us a note at morningkickaround@gmail.com. Support us on coffee.com/morningkickaround, where you can do a one-time donation or a reoccurring arrangement. And if you are a podcast person, look up Morning Kick Around on your favorite audio platform. I think that does it for today. Wednesday has been kicked. We will be back here on Friday morning. And until then, everybody, thanks for tuning in and enjoy your soccer.